Okay, so I thought I'd do my autumn list, and I'd do it a little bit differently and sort of highlight some of the smaller niche and indie houses, just because autumn, for me, I've probably got about a million. It's my favourite time of year, my favourite kind of scent. So I thought I'd talk about some sort of under the radar, let's call them, houses. I'm going to try not to talk too much about the houses. I will try and link all these, which I wouldn't normally do, so you can go check them out yourselves. But this is called a Motivate, and this is from a house called Nike, which is a branch of La Maison Hedonique. So go check them out. And these are, as it suggests, natural fragrances. It's made with a natural oil. I think it's coconut oil. Don't quote me, go look at it yourself. And all sorts of natural ingredients. And it's obviously, with that, it's got no alcohol in it, and it kind of sticks to your skin, and it sits on it and moisturizes it. It's a really interesting idea. But this fragrance, for me, why it's suitable, I picked this one for autumn in particular, is it's quite an osmanthus heavy fragrance. Now, to me, osmanthus can be a bit much. I'm not always a fan, but this one in particular, it's kind of a warm osmanthus. It's not a sharp, astringent one. It's kind of warm and cozy. And the way these are designed is they are kind of like wearing a veil, more so than a perfume. They're not big, bombastic projectors, but especially as it starts to get cold, these feel really cozy, and they coat you. So that's a Motivate from Nike. Now next up is like a small little British indie house or niche house, or however what you want to say, doesn't really matter. And they kind of specialise in oud, from the name, oud foreign, as you can see. They specialise in oud and oils and things like that. I've got a couple of oils, but for autumn I went for this one, which is Amber Oud, number 5, as you can see. Now, as the name suggests, it's quite an amber heavy fragrance, very warm, very luxurious. It develops on your skin to become even warmer. It's got touches of, oh, so nice, touches of florals in there. It's got amber. It's got a nice touch of a kind of woody, warm oud. It lasts, it's an extrait, so it lasts a very long time. And again, it's just one of these, as amber is in the autumn, a very warm, luxurious feeling kind of fragrance. And the company itself is very well worth checking out. The oils I've got have both been quite wonderful, quite different, and obviously they're oud based from the name. But it's not oud that we all think of automatically here in the West. It's quite a luxurious kind of woody, lovely oud. So this one is Amber Oud, and it is absolutely beautiful. Go check. Now my review of this one will be coming up not far off. Lacoste Parfums, and this is Piano Santal. And as you'll see in the review, I won't go too much into detail, this is quite a new, small, niche house. It is quite well talked about, to be fair, but I just thought I'd mention this one because it's just a beautiful, warm, kind of incensey, smoky. The first I get a little bit of a coconutty sandalwood. It's sandalwood, as you can imagine, and vanilla, and it's warm and cozy. It just sings off your skin. It is a beautiful fragrance. If you like sandalwood, this is definitely one worth checking out. And the house itself does a lot of fragrances based around musical. This comes with a musical score which you scan, and you can listen to where the idea and the concept comes from. And there's 2 new ones on more modern music, electronic music. So this is Lacoste de Parfum is definitely a house worth checking out. Next up is from the house of Sarah Baker. This one isn't my number 1 favourite from the house, but it's still an absolutely fantastic fragrance. And I think this is the most autumnal from the ones I've tried, and it's Lace. And the perfumer for this is Sarah McCartney, who you might hear from soon too. It's basically what it sounds like, but it's not as simplistic as that. It's quite a beautiful. It smells of lace, but it's got all these different facets, all these different features in it. It's got florals, it's quite woody, it's quite musky, but it all comes together to smell of this kind of lace feeling. There's touches of the gourmand at the beginning, and it's just a very cosy, familiar smell, if you get what I mean. This is kind of one of them that you love to snuggle up to. And again, with it being Sarah Baker, of course she had to be in it, sorry about that, but yes, of course, with it being Sarah Baker, it's not your ordinary fragrance. They're very good quality ones, but they have a little element of being unbelievably wearable and enjoyable, but something a bit different. And I've never smelled anything quite like this, so realistic to what it's supposed to be like, yet like a perfume. So that's Lace from Sarah. The list is probably from the most famous kind of house, I would say, that I've featured, and it's Dark from Acro, which is Olivia Cresp. The house itself, you don't really hear too much about it, but all these fragrances that it's currently done are all based on obsessions and addictions, and this one, Dark, is chocolate. Now, come on, who doesn't love chocolate? But this is not straight up chocolate. It's not dull. It's not linear. It develops. There's a lot in it and a lot about it, and it is very addictive. And it's very, very warm, as you can imagine. It's got lots of spices in it, it's nutty, it's got different levels of chocolate, different chocolates. This is a perfect autumnal scent, and this is one of my favourite fragrances of all time, I think. This was love at first sniff for me. It's gourmand without being like a gourmand, if you like. It's not sickly, it's not too sweet, it doesn't smell like you're wearing a bar of chocolate. There's so much to it, but it's chocolate. So that's Acro Dark. Next up is 4160 Tuesdays. This is Sarah McCartney's house, and this one is Amber Armour. Now I think this is perfect for this. And it's got one of my kind of notes that I've discovered that I absolutely adore in it. Obviously it's predominantly kind of ambery based, but it's not just amber. It's got a kind of floral feel from it, like iris running through it. There's loads of spices, and as well as that beautiful raspberry, it kind of balances out with delicious ambers, and it gets smooth and creamy. It is just a lovely scent. Is it gourmand? Kind of, but along the more cosy, warm ones, it's very smooth, it's very lovely. I'm still working through samples from this house, but this one so far would perhaps be my number one to buy with Over the Chocolate Shop. Maybe more this one because of the raspberry. But that's Amber Armour from 4160 Tuesday. Is from a house that I think is relatively new, and it's a Romanian house, and it's a very kind of small house, and the perfumer is Miguel Matos, and that's Calag Fragrances. I'll link them because I probably butchered the name. And I haven't tried them all yet, but I've picked Blackbeard, and the reason I've picked Blackbeard for the autumn of the ones I've tried so far is this is a very intense fragrance, obviously, but the tobacco that comes through eventually is a very dark and dirty and mysterious tobacco. There's so many layers in this. I'll just give you a basic brief one. There's loads of spices, but at first the kind of thing that surprises you almost is it's like a classic fougere. It's lavender, and I always admitted I'm not the biggest kind of lover of this genre, but the lavender in Blackbeard is just like a warm-up act. And it adds this sophistication and elegance to it, but it's got all these other levels that make it so much more. So without further ado, that's Blackbeard from Caladra. Next is from a little house I've just discovered recently. It's a very old house, but they've all been rejigged. Again, check them out. It's Violette Parfums, Violette Paris 1827. I'll link it. And I've picked Sketch from them. Now, the ones I've tried, there's another one, a review of one coming up soon, is the most suitable one for autumn is this one, Sketch, and that's because I don't think I'll be able to describe this and do this justice to it. It's the way I described it before, it's kind of hypnotically sensual. It's this woody, floral, beautiful, just unbelievably nice fragrance. It's got all the elements of a fragrance I love in a fragrance. There's vanillas, it's cosy, it's warm. The florals, it's kind of maybe tuberose is kind of one of the stronger ones. It's got this touch of violet in it, well, I'm sure I get a touch of violet, and it's just, it has slight boozy feel. It's just one of these lovely kisses up the neck kind of fragrances. It's just so warm, and again, when you want to be cozy, this is absolutely beautiful. And it's French perfumery at its best again. So check these out, Violette Parfum. Next up is another little British niche house. Now, this surprises me in so many ways. I like Miller Harris, and I've tried quite a few from them, and the ones I've tried, bar one that wasn't my taste, I've absolutely loved them all, and they are great quality and they smell great, but none of them have really given me that boom, that wow factor. And this is autumn, perfect for autumn again, because it's leather rouge. Now, I'm also not a leather fan. Sometimes I like a kind of soft leather, but it's one that's just too much for me generally when leather's dominant. And this, I don't know what Tuscan leather smells like, it's one I need to try, but it's got the same profile as that, the leather and the raspberry. Now, like I mentioned before, raspberry is really growing to be one of my favourite notes, and this is that. This is raspberry, touch of the florals, and leather, and it's kind of it is a leather jacket, a dark leather jacket, but there's something about it that's just really warm. It is like being wrapped up in a leather jacket, I suppose, and that sweetness of the raspberry and the floral touches through it. This is leather heaven to me. This is my favourite leather fragrance I've ever smelt, and if I do own a leather fragrance, it would be this. A bit pricey for me at the moment, but I'll get round to it, and that's Miller Harris. Next up is one of my game changer fragrances, and this is perfect for this time of year. It really is. Now, this, it just gets better every time I smell it. This is from Aaron Terence Hughes, who you've probably heard of. Whatever you think of Aaron, it doesn't really matter, it's none of my business, but what Aaron does is he makes wonderful fragrances, high quality, beautiful, fantastic fragrances, and this is something really special for me. Like I say, this got me into the whole world of niche, if you like, and the whole world of learning more about more complex fragrances and different fragrances, and this one is Jasmine Amber Rose. Now, it's quite ambery, as the name would suggest, and there's lovely rose going through it and floral jasmine and that. It's got touches of chocolate in it, leather. It's just this really warm, beautiful, sensual fragrance. I had never smelt anything like it. I've never smelt anything like it up to now, really. But this really changed kind of how I saw fragrances, and I wanted to learn more about them. And I love Aaron's work. I think it's brilliant. So this is Aaron Terence Hughes, Jasmine Amber. I will do more of these kind of lesser talked about houses videos, because I think it's important, isn't it, to give back. You know, we don't all need to hear about Chanel and Dior every day. And this is from Kajal Fragrances, and it's Dewey. And Kajal, again, not a particularly massive house, so you do hear stuff on and off about it. I don't think people really appreciate the beauty of his fragrances, and I don't think they get talked about seriously in a lot of detail too much. I might do a video, obviously I've done reviews on these, but I might do a video to talk about them in a bit more depth, because they deserve it. And he's a really nice guy. Like a lot of the guys I've mentioned in a lot of the houses, are actually really supportive of us little people and the community as a whole. You don't have to be a reviewer or whatever. These people will talk to you, as will Mo Kajal. Lovely guy. But Jury, anyway. This is predominantly, for me, rose violet kind of fragrance. It's woody, it's got a little touch of the elements of the Middle Eastern in it, a bit of oud, a bit lots of spices. But it's just for me, the most beautiful kind of florally dark rose fragrance. And for this, when it gets darker at night, there's nothing better than a nice warm cozy rose, is there? So okay, that's the end of the list. Are there any under the radar or smaller houses that you think we should give more love to, that you enjoy wearing their fragrances in the autumn? Anyway, I've waffled on. Hopefully this hasn't overspilt. Thank you. I want to mention just quickly, so nobody gets confused, whatever we think about fragrance, it's all down to personal taste. But all these fragrances, I haven't mentioned the gender, what they're aimed at or anything, mainly because none of these are specifically aimed at any gender. But the bottom line is, wear what the heck you want. I mean, it's scented water after all, isn't it? It's not, it's not hormones you're spraying on yourself. So I just wanted to mention that, because people will say, well, which way does this lean or whatever. It leans whichever way you want it to. If you struggle wearing a certain type of fragrance, that's fine. That's your personal taste, isn't it? Or if you're warm towards certain scent profiles, that's your personal choice. just enjoy the fragrances, everyone.